Deputy Madam Chair. I asked Lynn Chilcott what message she wanted to send to the government today. She said to me, "I've read the articles, I've listened to the speeches and I still don't understand. How does the government's never-ending commission help me save my husband?" Damien O'Neill served in the Navy for 25 years. He saw active duty in Afghanistan, Iraq, East Timor and the Gulf. He has well and truly served his country. And in February 2020 he was on life support at the Monash Medical Centre. Another overdose on prescription medication, another suicide attempt, another veteran feeling like all hope is lost. I am telling you, Damien is beyond struggling. He needs help. He's been suicidal for years. He's made multiple attempts on his own life. His children have found him in that way. He's been placed on breathing tubes and he's torn them out in fear because the sensation on his skin brings back memories of being strangled. He has withdrawn from all social life. He doesn't see his kids anymore because, like all kids, they're noisy. The noise of them playing triggers his post-traumatic stress. None of this needed to happen, none of it. Half of this trauma was inflicted not by war, but by what happens when you come home from it. Damien was assessed as highly incapacitated by the Department of Veterans Affairs' hand-picked medico-legal psychiatrist. Hand-picked. This is the first. DVA found that he would require full-time institutionalised care due to the nature of his trauma. That would normally entitle him and his family to a higher-than-average rate of compensation. But this assessment from Damien's treating psychiatrist was challenged by the Department of Veterans Affairs. DVA, here we go again, did not disagree that Damien was highly incapacitated. They did not disagree that Damien needs full-time institutionalised care. No, the Department of Veterans Affairs issue was that Damien was already receiving full-time care courtesy of his wife, like many other veterans out there, and he's already receiving care because his wife is helping him. Then he doesn't need as much help. What a load of rubbish. People can have their own views about whether that's the right way to make a decision like that, whether it's the right for the Department of Veterans Affairs to decide that Damien's kids don't need as much help because Lynn is looking after Damien instead of working, instead of having her life. But here's what I don't understand and here's what I can't agree with. The Department of Veterans Affairs made the decision to undercut Damien's compensation because he was already receiving carer services from his wife. Let's make that clear. The Department of Veterans Affairs used his wife's care to justify not giving their family, Damien's family, financial assistance. Now, there's also a payment available to help veterans with their everyday basic care. That's a payment that Lynn is eligible for. That's a payment for exactly the services that the Department of Veterans Affairs knew that Lynn was doing since as far back as 2016, doing the department's job. What's new? That's exactly the reason why they docked Damien's compensation. In fact, when the department saw a chance to use Lynn's support to cut Damien's compensation, guess what the department did? Yeah, you guessed right, they did it. They took it. And when DVA had a chance to offer Lynn some financial support herself, they didn't do a thing. Oh no, they sat in silence. They didn't do a thing. No, the very service she was offering Damien was enough to dock his compensation, but wasn't enough to get someone in the department to say to her, "Oh, by the way, you're actually entitled to this payment as well. You're entitled to this payment as well." Damien's psychiatrist wrote in a report that the single largest stress in his life is the financial strain him and Lynn are under. And guess why they're under that strain? Here it goes, Department of Veterans Affairs. More than anything else, it's the pressure they feel that is causing them that harm. The Department of Veterans Affairs. Damien's psychiatrist says that he feels like the only answer to his family's financial strain is his death. And he's one of hundreds out there that feel this way. I don't want any veteran feeling like that. Nobody should have to give that much. And you know what really is the kicker to all this? They were entitled to nearly $300,000 in payments that they never received. They lost their family home. They were hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and they were entitled to a payment from the Department of Veterans Affairs. And guess what? The department never actually told them. They didn't bother. They didn't bother to tell them that they were entitled. The department had all the information to know that they were eligible and nobody told them. And they lost their family home. How bloody incompetent is this department? Lynn receives a payment because she's serving as Damien's full-time carer, because once again the department won't help her. And when I say full-time is what I mean, 24/7. Damien sleepwalks and he has nightmares. Like many other veterans, he wakes up in fear or he wakes up in anger. Over the last 6 years, he's spent more time in Ward 17 than he has at home. And whenever he's in the ward, this gets even better. Lynn's payments are cut. She can never work again because her husband spends half that time in the ward, half the time at home, and she's supposed to, over a 4-week period, go out and find a job and then go back to caring for him. How ridiculous is this? This is government policy. This is government policy, and it stinks, and it's killing people. Your husband's in hospital after an attempt on his own life, and he's going to be there for a month, so go out and find a job that lasts for 4 weeks. Oh, it gets worse. So while he's in Ward 17, Lynn's told by the Department of Veterans Affairs that he's been taken off client coordination support. That's the support that goes to veterans with the highest risk and the most complex needs. Her husband's in the ICU and she's being told she's losing support. It's her job to tell him this, by the way, her job. Imagine having to have that conversation. Damien is on a trial called the Wellbeing and Support Program, or the WASP. That trial gives intensive support to veterans with the highest need for help. And while Damien was on life support, Lynn was told that that trial is ending. The help it was offering him and Lynn evaporates. Problems don't go away so easily. Why would you end a trial and leave nothing in place for 200+ veterans who are on it? Why would you do that to a veteran who's clearly on the edge of abyss? You have a duty of care. DVA, you actually have a duty of care. That is your service. That is what you owe them. Damien has done his service many times over. Lynn has done hers. And look what she's given up. Look what she's been asked to do, and look at yourselves. Lynn can't go to the shops without taking all Damien's prescription drugs with her just in case. When are we going to say enough is enough? Over and over again, reviews and reports into the Department of Veterans Affairs find that its actions are making veterans sicker and is taking their lives. Do you realise what that means? Does the government realise what that means? That means the department's procedures, attitudes and culture are creating mental health problems and killing our veterans. They're a department that is meant to help the people who served our country, and instead they break them down more. The end result that is 440 veterans who have just returned for service will plan their own suicide every year. Around 50 will put their plan into action and will succeed, trust me. And I'm being conservative. 50 families every year have to bury their children, their parents, their brothers and their sisters. We can't keep going on like this. Veterans and their families can't keep going on like this. That is why the government must establish a Royal Commission into Veterans Affairs. Only with a Royal Commission will let us come together as a country and have a frank conversation about the way we treat our vets and their families. Only a Royal Commission that finishes with a set of recommendations for the government will work. It has to have a start date and an end date. It has to be impossible to ignore. It has to be out there in front of Australians every day. Only then will people like Lynn and Damien have a chance to hold the government's department accountable for their actions, and my God, they need to be held accountable. Now, all we know that the government says that they've offered something better than all that to families who have lost their loved ones. They say that they'll have a never-ending inquiry, a commission that can conduct piecemeal inquiries and make recommendations to Parliament. The problem with a permanent inquiry is that you never get closure. You never get a moment to move from the problem into the solution. The sort of moment can only come when you're given a final set of recommendations. You don't get that from a rolling review into veteran after veteran after veteran. Tell me this. Why should Lynn and Damien's story only matter to the government if, heaven forbid, he were no longer with us? Because that's the way he would get noticed by the government's proposed coroner on steroids, and that's all it is. It's a coroner on steroids, and this is the problem with that government's proposal. The government's just announced a never-ending inquiry fronted by a glorified coroner. Just great. Veterans don't need another person telling them why their mate has taken his life. They can tell you why. The real issue here is bigger than any one suicide. Our problems are about the way system drags people down, about the lack of trust. There is no trust, trust me, between the DVA and the people it's meant to serve. And they're about the culture of that department that too often puts its own financial concerns above the needs of the most vulnerable people who have served their country and prepared to die for it. Damien and Lynn deserve a Royal Commission that can fix these problems. So, Prime Minister, it'd be great if you can finally show some backbone and make that call. And while I'm up, the National RSL and ADSO, I tell you what, I have never come across two oxygen thieves like you lot. I tell you, we don't want you old cronies moving out of defence and representing us. You're not representing us. You're there for your self-interest. You're there for yourself. So the National RS said it's about time he went into retirement, and I'll tell you what, Adso, you're right next to him. See you later.